Hey kids, so if you saw the other video, it was condensed down into like 5 minutes of when we were in the Spruce Goose. This is all of the footage that I took with the GoPro on my head. It's uncut, unfiltered. There's some there's some great conversations in there. Some of it you can hear, some of you can't, but I know somebody out there will want to hear the whole damn thing, so there's a lot of information in it. You just gotta not have anything running in the background so that you can hear it all. So anyway, here it is. Yeah, sure, give me the keys.
Yeah. Couple things, because of COVID, we're not going to let you sit in the seats and refrain from, touching a lot of surface areas if you can.
Yeah,
You're going to have to hang on to get up the rail, but other than that.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, watch your step down here.
Okay.
You know anything about the goose?
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's wood, of course.
Yeah.
95% wood. Yeah. Well, about 98% actually.
And not spruce.
It's not spruce. It's birch. And the birch came from actually the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, almost all of it. A little bit from Alaska, I understood, and then lately we've heard a little bit from here in Oregon, but mostly from. So it's 280,000 pounds empty weight.
That's it?
Yeah. It's not real heavy.
No, it's not.
It's the sides are about 1/4 inch thick, the top's 1/8 inch, and the bottom's 1.5 inches thick, and it was all pulled together in a vacuum chamber. It's just real thin layers of birch. There's 9 layers, for instance, on the sidewalls.
Oh, okay.
And then they use deep vacuum. This is a HEPA filter because Howard was a germaphobe, of course. So that tube you see runs up to the pilot seat. You'll see it when we get up there. Watch your head here. This plane had a lot of firsts. It's the first airplane. The fuel is not in the wing. It's below. It's wherever you see a vent, a metal vent. That's where a fuel room is. There's 7 fuel rooms underneath the floor. Each room has 2 1,000-gallon fuel tanks. So there was about 14,000 gallons, a little over 14,000 gallons of fuel capacity. And they needed that because they're burning about 109 gallons an hour.
Wow.
Each engine. So you're burning out almost, over 800 gallons an hour of fuel. First airplane with redundancy in the wiring. There was 5 redundant systems, about 34 miles, 36 miles of wire in the airplane. First airplane, everything's hydraulic. All the movable surface areas, your ailerons, your rudders, your flaps, everything's hydraulic. First airplane ever to do that. It's still a little bit fly by wire or by cable, because the cables activate a servo motor.
Right.
Or a valve. And its first airplane could back up under its own power. The 2 inside engines on each side have totally reversible props. So the idea would have been, this would have been a clamshell door. They would have run it up on the beach, opened the doors, unloaded, and been able to back up under their own power. They wouldn't have had to wait for a tugboat or something.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Thinking ahead.
yeah. This guy here could turn off each one of those circuits, or with the big disconnect, he could turn off everything. So that he would sit here, he's like an electrician. The door was put on just for the day of testing, this front door here. It would have been a clamshell door, otherwise he was concerned because of the prototype. He didn't want extra leaks and things that would go along. We'll go ahead and go up, and we'll everything up there you're going to see, and you can take all the pictures you want, by the way. Everything you see up there is original to the day it was flown, except the windows. Disney cut those in.
Oh.
And the city made us put in a fire sprinkler system, and we added some extra lights. So
There you go.
go ahead and
Go
go
ahead,
up.
Mike.
And this probably, in the day, would have been accessed by a ladder. These steps were put in too by Disney. I'm sure it's out of the old Navy destroyer, actually. Payload on this would have been around 136,000 pounds. And with full fuel load, it would have topped 500,000 pounds. So you can see the top.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Pretty
But these the formers are wood too.
Yeah, it's glued. What they did, they nailed it. They glued and nailed it, and then when the glue dried, they pulled all the nails off.
Oh, okay.
They had 16,000 pounds of nails.
16,000. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
That's a savings.
Yeah, a lot of weight savings there. This guy would stand up here. He'd guide the plane through the harbor. He was probably a harbor master. He had an intercom to the pilot. Because from the pilot's seat, you can't see the end of the wings.
Yeah.
First airplane ever that they could add oil to an engine while it was running. And only the engine that needed oil got the oil. So these engines burned oil like going out of style. So they have 350 gallons of oil available.
Just to be able
just
to.
for the engines, yeah.
Wow.
Wings are attached, and the wings actually go together right here. The wings are in two sections, so they're bolted together right here.
Ah.
And then,
So this is like the main spar going out.
right, that's the main spar. And then during the flight, now, I don't know, you probably didn't notice down there, but there's red fire suppressant cylinders down there. During the initial flight, he had 2 guys in each wing with fire extinguishers. That was his fire suppressant.
Wow.
This tank here is an auxiliary fuel tank. It's 200 and, about 70, I think 270 gallons, and they pump the fuel from below. And then these engines are gravity fed. They don't have any pressurized fuel at all.
It's all gravity.
They didn't run good on pressurized fuel for whatever reason.
So would they would pump the fuel up from the bottom tanks
through these lines.
Wow.
Big lines, and then keep that full. I imagine it's pumping continuously, because if you got
Well, yeah. 8 engines going full bore.
you got 800 gallons an hour going out, you know. This is the other side of the wing. You can take a look in there.
Wow, that is
It's
cool.
11 feet 9 inches of clearance in there. You can almost play basketball.
Holy crap! Yeah, that's way up there.
He kept it. If you look at the aeronautics equipment here, it's more modern than the 40s, because he kept this plane ready to fly for 31 years. He kept it in storage, and he kept upgrading things. It cost him about $1 million a year to do that, but he never flew it again for whatever reason. Nobody will ever know why.
No, yeah, he was a little eccentric,
He was eccentric.
to say the least.
I guess when you're rich, you're eccentric. When you're poor, you're just crazy. These are Franklin aircraft engines here. These are the same engines that powered the Mashira helicopters. So these are the starter engines. They have to start both of these engines to generate enough electrical power.
Just to start those. So they're like the APUs.
All else failed, they could hand crank this thing. Engines are, of course, Pat Whitney 4360s. They're 28 cylinder, 3,000 horsepower each. And they each weigh 6,000 pounds. So when they put those engines on in 2001, the wings drooped about 6 inches.
Yeah.
Since then, they've been measuring from the floor to the floats at 0. Hasn't moved.
It hasn't moved. Wow.
So that's all well.
That is the engineering.
Yeah, great in engineering. In fact, he thought everything. If you look, you can see it. You look right behind, right kind of between the air scoop and the exhaust manifold. There's a little round disc there. We'll see it when we get down. But anyway, he's got winches on each side of that engine to bring the toolboxes up on every engine for the
Oh wow.
mechanics.
For the mechanics, yeah. Because well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
you know.
it's a long ways up, and you can't access it from the wings. You can see the back of the engine, but there's no way to access it.
Yeah, there's no way to.
Flight engineer here, and then 2 flight engineers up in front. It would have been a crew of 11 men each to fly this. I mean 11 men. If they would have flew over,
Yeah.
they would have been, 20-some hours, 13 hours in the air, so they would have had 2 crews, and this part back here would have been converted into a sleeping area and a gallery for
Yeah.
feeding. So during the initial flight, though, I think they had about 15 technicians on board and 12 journalists. But some of the journalists were complaining because he was just doing taxi runs, which is that's all he was
That's all he was gonna do.
Supposed to do. And so he kicked 10 of them off because they were complaining. So he had 2 journalists on board when he flew it immediately.
Wow.
And one of the reasons we speculate here is he probably didn't go too far. If you go back out and look at the back of the tail on the outside, you'll see what looks like a zipper around it.
Okay.
They forgot to unpin one of the elevators, so when he went to turn the airplane, he tweaked the tail. And the guy in the tail, it opened up, he could see the ocean going by at
Oh shit.
80 miles an hour. He thought the guy in the tail figured it was going to fall off, so he immediately contacted Howard. Howard then backed off the throttles, and when he did that, he lost all his hydraulic pressure, and he couldn't turn the plane at all anymore. So they had to use engines to turn the plane to get it back to the
Wow.
back. So, you know, obviously, he probably ain't going to go too far if his tail's ready to fall off. And if he would have kept going the way he was, he would have been in downtown Long Beach. That wouldn't have went over real well, I'm sure.
No.
All this instrumentation was for testing. He was testing water leaks, vibration, flexing on the wings, stuff like that. And then after he, you know, did a evaluation of everything, then they rebuilt the airplane. It took about a year to do that, and then, like I said, he kept it ready to fly. Their initial thought when they bought this airplane in California in 1993 was actually to fly it and land it on the Columbia River. But one of the main reasons they didn't do that was because to get it out of the Columbia and through the Metro Portland area or wherever,
Yeah.
it would have been over $11 million to do that.
Wow.
Barging it up here only cost $4.5 million, so only.
Only, yeah.
That was just the cost of getting here. Then they had to build a museum, and they had to restore it. The city of Long Beach had made them paint a fire retardant on it, so this airplane was actually white when it got here. And they said in places it was 1.5 inches thick.
Oh God.
So they scraped the whole exterior of this plane down to bare wood.
And then
started
restored
over. So
it.
there's 1,750 gallons of house paint on the outside of it right now. The inside,
Just interesting to see
pretty
the,
much.
the time in building each
Yeah.
each one.
Because each one of these is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just.
There's no dimensional lumber on this airplane. It's all.
I mean the
custom
tapers.
built.
I mean look at the tapers on everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this back here, but most people think this is angle iron. This is actually wood that they were able to.
Yeah. Well, make everything out of wood.
Yeah, everything's wood.
Everything out of wood.
Of course-
Light and just as strong as steel. Yeah, you can make that.
Of course, the reason they did that was because of the wartime shortages. They didn't have. They weren't allowed to use any steel or aluminum or anything.
Yeah, we're noticing all these little tiny things because we're model makers.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
we build and fly remote control helicopters
Oh, there
and
you
planes and
So this forward here is, of course, aluminum because they were concerned about the windshield blowing out of a wood frame. So they let them use some aluminum. Long distance radio would have been Morse code, short distance voice. All the throttles could be surrendered to the engineers here, flight engineers, because of the harmonics or vibration.
yeah, if
frequency.
he could see something was going wrong, he could adjust it. And
Yeah, every engine ran a little bit different RPM because they didn't want them all vibrating in the same frequency.
Wow.
Here's the tube I was telling you about.
Oh yeah.
Howard side, co-pilot side, you can tell he's he wanted to be in control, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He had no co-pilot on board, by the way, because he told him to stay home the night before. He was.
He knew what he was doing.
He's concerned. They figured he was going to fly it. He also put that black line on the windshield, which is, we think, one of the first heads-up.
The head-up display idea.
And that was for his horizon. So the guy in the co-pilot seat was the guy that helped design the hydraulics. Well, he didn't want the press to think that the co-pilot maybe helped in any way fly the airplane. And they took care of that problem with the hydraulics by putting in they had a hand pump hydraulic over there.
Oh, jeez. If you keep up enough pressure.
Yeah, and he also put, you see it in the front of the electrical panel, there's two electric motors with hydraulic pumps. That if these fail, then those take over. And if those fail, then they can hand pump.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Flew the Spruce Goose. We took the special. I've never been up in the cockpit before. So this is something else.
This is so cool. So much history.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
There's a lot of history.
Yeah.
Let me do.
Come on, light. There we go. You want to take some pictures? A little bit
Yeah.
of light there. 110 volt DC, which is kind of an interesting voltage in this airplane. And the reason he did that, because I don't have wires. Wires were so thin.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get enough copper, so they ran real small wires, and that higher voltage helped
Help push it out. Yeah.
push it out. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I gotta get up there.
super cool. The funny thing is not a lot's changed since when was this built?
1947 they finished it. They started the design and building in about 1942. And then his innovations, they figured his innovations in this airplane advanced aviation by a decade. So there's 47 patents came out of this airplane for different things.
Not that much different than the 50s aircraft.
No.
No.
A lot of the same stuff.
Wow.
Where are you guys from?
I'm out of Salem, state area.
I'm out of Florence.
Well,
We've been trying to get a day trip up here for the last few months.
good.
We're hoping to see the, I called, I don't know, probably, it's been, I don't know, 5-6 months now, but I called and they said at the time that we might be able to sneak in and see the S-51 helicopter sitting on the space side and get a little bit closer of a look at it, because I'm looking to build a kit and kit that aircraft, and so
Yeah,
having some.
Talk to Barry down there, the day captain. He can arrange that for you.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Cool.
that's what they said. They said the day captain at the time, so.
So he's usually down the front there.
Okay, yeah. He used to work on helicopters in past lives, so.
Cool, that'd be good. Well, it sounds like we've got another tour coming, so I'm gonna have to.
Okay, yeah.
You're gonna have to kick us out. Yeah, we get it.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
But this is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, you gotta look at the SR-71 over there for sure. That's a pretty cool aircraft.
That is. So much of that plane is ahead of its time, and it's still ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah. So take a look in front there, you can see the motors that it's talking about.
Oh, hey, yeah, them big ass motors.
Yeah, there's some of that,
So, curious about the teardrop.
Yeah, that's the radio antennas. They're
Radio
inside
antennas.
because it's a wet airplane,
Wow.
so they don't need to be on the outside. But
Is everybody down from upstairs?
yeah, we're okay. We'll stay over here in the side.
Yeah, we'll let them crawl up there.
First step here and then going upstairs.
The hydraulic pumps.
That's pretty cool. I mean, just a lot of the originality of it's still there. You know, you can
Yeah.
still see a lot of the same.
Yeah.
It's all the different, like twin motors and all of these flight controls. Because there's the deck right there, so you can see the flight control motors and all the trim motors and stuff
Yeah,
are there.
everything's there.
Transferring down. I mean, I would assume that the tube that you're seeing is the flight control yoke.
Yeah.
These stairs are
That's
pretty
your
much-
elevator.
So that's,
I'm guessing.
yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Well, what is the big? Looks like
It's an air and
an air, just an air inlet.
Yes, they just put a ladder up here.
So Disney used it quite extensively. They used it more than for the movie. They actually used it quite a bit. Disney, when they filmed the movie, they actually used the cockpit for filming.
They probably did. I'm not real sure about that. They didn't use much of it. Down there, there's part of the building process. Glass case.
Yeah, the miniature down there is something else. Quite impressive.
Yeah, you can see the grain of the woods.
Okay.
You can see what the wood looks like.
Oh yeah.
He called the wood like 3 times. He wanted the best birch there was available, so he got that. And so, like I said, this would have been spar varnish, and then the last coat would have been aluminum oxide powder on the outside to give it the gray color. Like I said, now it's just all thing. There's the new fire suppressor system. These are the rooms where the fuel is. They're selling these.
Oh, okay. Yep.
They could also use them as ballast. They could pump from one
Wow.
tank to the other. And then the beach balls were his original flotation. He'd ordered his flotation, he hadn't gotten it. Now you can see it in between the ribs, the black
Yeah.
hole. But he had these beach balls stuffed in the floats and in the wings and then in through this area in cargo net bags. There was about 2 or 3 more pickup loads of beach balls here actually at one time. So, in his other airplanes, he had ping pong balls for flotation if he flew over water. They had a thing about that. But the one in the glass case was inflated in 47. It's never been touched. It's still holding air.
Wow.
Some samples out of these. They said it's the worst air they've
The worst.
ever encountered in their life. Well, it's a triple formaldehyde glue they used, and they were just,
Yeah.
Well, it was that technology of what they had back then.
OSHA wasn't in existence at that
No.
time.
Just get it done. That is insane.
I see the coffee. They were upstairs too. There's coffee everywhere.
Nothing happens without coffee.
Yeah.
Our youngest son was an officer in the Navy, and he was an intel officer for a fighter group on an aircraft carrier. And I got to ride on the aircraft carrier back with him from Pearl Harbor to San Diego.
Oh, on a Tiger Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but coffee, I never seen so much coffee in my life. They'd bring in 100-pound bags of coffee and then drink it.
I get to do something similar with my brother. He's an officer in the Navy still, and he took me for a ride once. It was something else.
It is something. How fast that carrier will go.
We weren't on a carrier. I got to. We were actually on an Ohio class missile stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something else. He's still doing it, which I can't believe, but.
Yeah, our son stayed in 6 years, and that was enough for him.
I was lucky. I was supposed to be in for 4. I got out in 3. Base I was at closed down. And they said, well, you can extend for 2 years and go to these 6 other bases, which were all crap.
Yeah.
Or you can get out. And I'm like, well, do I get my GI Bill? They said, yep. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. That sounds like a smart choice to me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was just in 2 years during Vietnam. That was enough.
During that war, yeah.
I was in the military police, and it was all right, but something I didn't want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of this as spam.
Yeah. Hey, you know.
So this would have been the configurations. Originally this was presented to Congress to haul 450 troops.
Wow.
It would have been probably double deck, but it still would have been a crowded deal.
Yeah. Well, that's the way the military wants. Crowd as much as you can get in.
Yeah, jam them in. They don't much care about your comfort,
Nope.
how you feel.
Just something else. He decided to
The
build it.
wings, of course, are put together right here.
Yeah.
Even just putting it back together, disassembling it in Long
Yeah.
Beach and bringing it here and then putting it back together.
That was
Yeah, they
a
put it-
monumental task.
They put it together right in this building. And they got lucky when they got down to Long Beach. They found some guys that originally helped build this airplane, and they
Wow.
brought them up here to reassemble it and
Oh,
disassemble it.
really?
They got them to help them. Yeah. Another
Wow.
First-hand knowledge.
First time.
Yeah.
It's just a thing to have. But they said when they brought it here, everything, when they started putting it together, everything fit perfect. I mean, there was no misalignments, no nothing. They just couldn't believe how well this plane was engineered.
Right.
Howard, everything had to go past him or it didn't get approved. So when he went on vacations, for instance, everybody that was building this airplane just got out tables and played cards and drank coffee because they knew nothing would get done.
Right.
without him anyway.
Unless he approved it.
He would just say, no, gotta do it over.
Yeah.
So they figured some guy, you know, smarter than I am, he figured maybe they could add this build a year sooner if Howard wouldn't have been so involved. Because
Oh, that's probably.
But then, how tight would the tolerances be?
that's it,
You know?
So it was his baby and he was making sure it was done right.
Yeah.
everything he did early on. I mean,
So you can look at the door here and you can see the 9 layers of wood right here.
Oh wow.
And then you can see how it's stacked in. How they stacked all the pieces in. And this glue is pretty interesting. His formula for this glue is still the formula they use nowadays for the carbon fiber airplanes. There's no glue like it. It's never been invented. And they, gosh, MIT.
Still trying to figure out something better.
They come out and look at it and say it's just as good as the day it was built. There's
Yeah.
no deterioration. And the offset engine, people often ask why they're so far off. They start on the same engine they used on B-29s. And so he thought if he could contain the fire out here, maybe it wouldn't burn up as good wing.
So that's why they're out so
Yeah,
far.
that's why they're out so far.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's a good idea.
There's the little winches you were talking
Yeah.
about, the disc and
Yeah,
everything.
I can see it.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling you about right there.
Nice.
But you know, the biggest airplane until this one flew was that DC-3 over there, one of the biggest airplanes. You can look at the tail and then you look over the DC-3, this tail's bigger than the DC-3.
Big air.
Well, this is still the, isn't this still the widest aircraft?
Comparison here. Orange airplanes is a 727, 747s. excuse
Yeah.
me. And that one's a big Street 20 or whatever it is, Airbus. And then the next one is that big Russian transport.
The
The
225.
I think the only one that beats it now is that one they just flew
Yeah,
the last 6 months in Mojave.
Yeah.
When that
The
Paul Allen.
the
Yeah,
two
yeah.
747s, whatever, strapped together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's, I don't know what the wingspan on that one. This one's 320 feet.
Yeah.
I think that one's over 500 or something.
It's some ridiculous amount.
I rode on the Antonov, not the 225, but I took a ride on the 125
Yeah.
and 124. We had to go to Australia once,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
loaded up on that.
It's short and,
And so
stubby.
in
but
Long
wide.
Beach, the windows got put in because they had a platform and you could see into the.
Yeah.
That was what that was all about then.
Yeah, what Disney had done, they just let people up there unsupervised, and they were letting 30, 40 people up at a time.
Oh, jeez.
Started stealing gauges and knobs.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, even cutting pieces of the plane off with their knives. So they put a stop to that, and then they put a beauty trap over
Makes sense.
Yep.
there. They were.
Protect their investment.
They also put in aluminum reinforcements up here.
Just
They
to
had
make
so many
sure.
people up there, the floor was starting to sag.
Oh,
Wasn't meant to have 40 people
right.
stomping around.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disney, their idea was they wanted to get rid of this thing. They were just thinking of taking it out and burning it.
Oh my God! Thank God somebody had the.
Somebody had the foresight to
There's
save
been a
it.
lot of stuff over the years that you wish, you know, you
Yeah.
look back in history and you go, man, why didn't we save that? And at the
Yeah.
time, they were all standing around.
Yep.
I mean, P-51 Mustangs were lined up by the hundreds, and they were selling them for a few $100s full of gas, and people were like, yeah, no, it's not worth it.
No.
Yeah.
They were crushing them faster.
I saw that B-17. They used to call it the bomber restaurant in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, it's in Salem, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
for sale now. There's talk about we might get it back here at this museum.
Oh.
We had a B-17 here that they flew out of here. All they needed to do was clean the carburetors, and it started right up, and they were able to fly.
They used to have a B-25 and a Mustang, and they had quite a bit of stuff at one
Had
point.
quite a bit here.
Yeah, kind of interesting how that all went.
P-38. That was flew out here. P-38 was sitting